In the operating room, Zhang Shuashuo accidentally left surgical scissors inside the patient's abdomen. The patient died due to complications. My senior colleague and boyfriend, however, helped her fabricate evidence and shifted the blame onto me. I was fired from the hospital and pushed into the river by the patient's family, where I drowned later. My boyfriend apologized at my grave, saying, "Shuashuo has had a difficult life. While you were talented and cherished by your parents, you've already enjoyed everything you could. Rest in peace." And after my death, Zhang Shuashuo stole my thesis achievements and became a rising star in the medical field overnight. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day she volunteered to help the professor finish up the surgery. "Director, leave the finishing touches to me." Zhang Shuashuo's soft, delicate voice rang out, her smiling eyes curved like crescent moons. Appearing lively and adorable even with a mask on, it made me, with my serious expression, look lifeless in comparison. "Let Wu Qingshan do it. You and Qin Zhao lack surgical experience. Wu Qingshan will demonstrate, and you too can learn from him." The response came from our mentor, the head of surgery, Director Li, a leading figure in the field. He is usually serious and decisive, but he particularly admires my boyfriend, Wu Qingshan, who is also the first assistant for this surgery. The patient is the fiancé of the Crown Prince of the Beijing Circle. To put it nicely, he's the Crown Prince of the Beijing Circle, but in reality, this family has connections in both the legal and illegal worlds. Calling him the Crown Prince of the underworld wouldn't be an exaggeration. Zhang Shuashuo and I have only been interning for half a year. Given our mentor's cautious nature, he wouldn't let either of us take the lead. However, in my previous life, Wu Qingshan suddenly stepped forward to speak up for Zhang Shuashuo. "Director, you've said that practice is the best training for newcomers. She's practiced suturing wounds thousands of times, so you can confidently leave it to her. I'll keep an eye on things and help you oversee." Wu Qingshan's persuasion led Director Li to agree to Zhang Shuashuo's request. After the director left, I was assigned by Wu Qingshan to tidy up nearby, leaving only Zhang Shuashuo and him to finish up on the operating table. Yet, for some reason, even with the experienced Wu Qingshan overseeing, Zhang Shuashuo still caused a major medical accident. We are a well-known top-tier hospital, and such an incident is undoubtedly a fatal blow to the hospital's reputation. Moreover, the patient's identity is special. It cannot be resolved with money alone. In my previous life, I considered using my family's connections to plead for Zhang Shuashuo. After all, it was her first offense, and she is still young. It would be a shame for her life to be ruined by an accident. I never expected that when the hospital launched an internal investigation, the video footage of the final part of the surgery vanished into thin air. My boyfriend Wu Qingshan and Zhang Shuashuo actually joined forces to point the finger at me. Wu Qingshan claimed that I was afraid Zhang Shuashuo would take all the credit, so I snatched the opportunity to suture the wound before she could do it. With his confession and Zhang Shuashuo's tacit consent, the hospital immediately shifted its suspicion toward me. At the same time, inexplicable accusations against me began to surface online. They claimed that my undergraduate thesis was purchased, my college entrance exam scores were obtained through cheating, and my hospital internship was secured through backdoor connections. They also accused me of engaging in female rivalry, saying I often targeted attractive female classmates during my university years. Some people even claimed that it was my father, the pharmaceutical company owner, who sent someone to steal the surveillance footage. In the chaos of online battles, the truth no longer matters. What those who bribed the marketing accounts wanted the public to see became the truth. Moreover, my identity as the heiress of a pharmaceutical company naturally attracts attention. Faced with overwhelming slander, I found myself unable to defend against it. I didn't want to affect my father's company. I had no choice but to swallow my anger and patiently await the final judgment from the hospital and the police. However, the day before the results were announced, Wu Qingshan called. He cried and apologized to me, saying he had been used by Zhang Shuashuo. He also asked me to meet by the riverside downstairs to talk, saying he wanted to explain the whole truth to me. At the time, I thought he had finally found his conscience, so without much thought, I went straight to the riverside. But the person waiting for me there wasn't Wu Qingshan, but an assassin sent by the Crown Prince of the Capital Circle. A fully armed man in black pushed me into the surging river in the dead of night. After I lost the strength to struggle, he left a suicide note, forging the scene of my suicide out of guilt. Only after my death did I realize that this was yet another scheme by Zhang Shuashuo. She was too afraid that I might have a chance to turn things around, too afraid that I would seek revenge on her, so she misled the Crown Prince of the capital into thinking I was planning to flee. She also conspired with Wu Qingshan to lure me to a riverside without surveillance, which led to my murder. Fortunately, I was reborn, with the painful memories from my past life. My thoughts gradually returned to the present right before my eyes. As soon as the mentor finished uttering his refusal, Zhang Shuashuo secretly tugged at Wu Qingshan's sleeve right under my nose. Her gaze was so earnest, as expected. Swayed by her look, Wu Qingshan's heart softened. The next second, he uttered the exact same words as in his previous life, pleading with the mentor to give Zhang Shuashuo a chance. Upon hearing this, the mentor glanced at me. Zhang Shuashuo was eager for the opportunity, simply because he wanted to get a high score after the internship. Everyone longs for such an opportunity, but the mentor wants to treat everyone fairly. Actually, in my previous life, I had thought about fighting for the opportunity, but at that time, Wu Qingshan took the initiative and made the decision for me. This time, let Shuashuo take it. Next time, Qin Zhao will have a turn. Everyone will get a chance. Qin Zhao isn't that petty. Wu Qingshan's words made me very uncomfortable at the time, but considering that further argument would only delay the surgery, I chose to endure and didn't press the issue. However, in this lifetime, I no longer want to suffer in silence, nor do I want the patient to lose their life. Before Wu Qingshan could speak, I spoke up first. Director, Zhang Shuashuo's suturing skills are poor, and I'm concerned it might affect the patient's recovery. In an instant, the atmosphere in the operating room turned eerie. Zhang Shuashuo's eyes suddenly reddened, like a pitiful little white rabbit that had been bullied. Seeing this, Wu Qingshan immediately felt a surge of protectiveness. He stepped in front of her and snapped at me fiercely. Qin Zhao, your words are too harsh. I've observed Shuashuo's skills, and they're not as bad as you say. Besides, I'm here to oversee things. If the director doesn't trust her, does he not trust me either? All right. Stop arguing. Zhang Shuashuo will handle this one. Wu Qingshan, you keep a close eye on things. Director Li finished speaking and turned to leave the operating room. I knew he was making this compromise because Wu Qingshan's father is the hospital director, and he didn't want to embarrass Wu Qingshan over minor matters. I've done all I can. I could only look at the patient on the operating table with regret, praying that Zhang Shuashuo would not make the same mistake in this lifetime. Zhang Shuashuo, however, shot me an unwilling glare and sneered. You're really something. I thought you were just a bookworm, but I never expected you to be so cunning. Wu Qingshan stood between us, looking awkward, but his gaze toward Zhang Shuashuo was unmistakably gentle, while the look he gave me was full of accusation. Isn't what I said the truth? I couldn't be bothered to respond any further and silently walked aside to tidy up the remaining equipment. While they were busy facing the operating table, I secretly took out my phone. I aimed the camera at the operating table. I saw Zhang Shuashuo's hand trembling as she held the pliers on the screen. A female mentor had once criticized her for having unsteady hands, but she didn't realize the seriousness of the issue and didn't practice more. Instead, she angrily claimed that the female mentor was jealous of her good looks and deliberately targeting her. Now, she's putting on a brave face despite her shortcomings. Even Wu Qingshan couldn't stand it and wanted to take the pliers to help her, but she playfully stopped him again. Senior, do you think I can't do it either? Hearing this, Wu Qingshan showed a doting smile. Noticing that I had already turned my back, he gently squeezed Zhang Shuashuo's hand and coaxed, how could little Shuashuo not be able to do it? Don't worry, I'm watching. Be brave. A gentle cheer came, and I felt a wave of nausea. Wu Qingshan seemed to have forgotten that I was his official girlfriend, completely lost in the ambiguous relationship with Zhang Shuashuo. I don't understand. Back when he was pursuing me, Zhang Shuashuo was single. If he liked Zhang Shuashuo, why did he waste his energy on me back then? Just as the wound was about to be sutured, Wu Qingshan's phone rang. He glanced down at the text message. In just a few seconds, without anyone reminding him, Zhang Shuashuo once again left the scissors inside the patient's abdomen. I did not stop him. After filming the entire process, I quietly put away my phone. The surgery was over, and the patient was handed over to the on-duty doctor for care. When Zhang Shuashuo, Wu Qingshan, and I walked out of the hospital, it was pouring rain outside. The ride-hailing service was scheduled for an hour later. Wu Qingshan had no choice but to run into the rain to hail a taxi on the road. After about 10 minutes, he finally managed to flag one down. Zhang Shuashuo immediately cheered with joy. Senior, you're amazing. So Wu Qingshan didn't hesitate for a moment, transforming into a gentleman as he took off his coat and helped Zhang Shuashuo into the car. Once he got in as well, he sat side by side with Zhang Shuashuo. He rolled down the window and said to me, Qin Zhao, you wait for the next car. Shuashuo lives alone, and it's not safe for her to go back by herself this late. Zhang Shuashuo smiled at me, her eyes gleaming with the triumph of a victor. Before I could respond, the taxi disappeared into the rain. What a wonderful boyfriend I have. In fact, a close junior from my past life had warned me. saying that Wu Qingshan lacked boundaries with Zhang Shuashuo, and the two often ate together and even served each other food. For this, I once confronted Wu Qingshan. He wasn't panicked. Instead, he righteously accused me. The hospital is busy all day long. When would I have time for an affair? Even if I were having an affair, I wouldn't be foolish enough to do it in front of your friends. Can't you think clearly? Don't let those with ulterior motives sow discord between us. I pay extra attention to Zhang Shuashuo because she comes from a poor family and isn't starting from the same place as us. It's really tough for her to be in the medical school. If she finds out you're gossiping about her behind her back, she might do something foolish. I suggest you be a bit kinder. At that moment, I was completely stunned by his barrage of criticism, so I began to reflect on whether I was being too narrow-minded. But in this life, I see everything clearly before my eyes. He has long been interested in Zhang Shuashuo, probably not wanting to bear the bad reputation of a scumbag. He deliberately neglected me, hoping I would be the one to break up. I sneered and tightened my grip on the phone. Since you're all going to hell anyway, what's the harm in letting you enjoy one more day? That night, patient Su Yin'er was wheeled back into the ICU. It was said that the on-duty doctor noticed something was wrong with Su Yin'er and sent her for a CT scan, which revealed a surgical scissors left in her abdomen. After the incident, the hospital director's first reaction was to contact the family to negotiate confidentiality, no matter the cost. It wasn't until his assistant reminded him that he realized Su Yin'er's family was not to be trifled with. At this moment, Gu Qingze, the crown prince of the capital's elite circle, had already gathered his men and blocked the dean's office. Seeing the thugs at the door and the hospital security guards at a standoff, the dean was so frightened that he broke out in a cold sweat, reluctantly agreeing to hand over the mastermind the next day. The crown prince of the Beijing circle finally left with his men, cursing and grumbling. In the early hours of that morning, I was notified to attend an emergency meeting. When I arrived at the conference room door, Zhang Shuashuo and Wu Qingshan were standing in a corner of the hallway, whispering with their heads down. I could guess what they were discussing without even thinking. When Wu Qingshan turned around and saw my face turn deathly pale in an instant, I just find it laughable, so he can feel guilty too. To avoid alerting them, I didn't expose their secret. Instead, I walked over to Zhang Shuashuo, held her hand despite feeling disgusted, and comforted her, saying, "Don't worry, this is your first offense, so you won't face criminal charges. My senior colleague and I will plead on your behalf." Zhang Shuashuo's eyes gleamed with cunning, but she remained silent. Wu Qingshan had no choice but to take over and urge, "Go on in." As soon as the group settled in their seats, Zhang Shuashuo began her performance. It's true that I fought for the final task, but as soon as the director left, Qin Zhao used her seniority at the hospital to pressure me into giving her the opportunity. Senior brother advised her not to snatch it, but she wouldn't listen and even threatened to break up with him. Whoa, I'm also at fault. At the time, I was afraid that a conflict would affect the patient and the relationship between senior brother and Qin Zhao, so I had no choice but to compromise. I never expected that this would only encourage her to cause a major disaster. Just like in my past life, her sobbing made several investigators look at me with ambiguous expressions. In my past life, because she twisted the truth, I was so angry that I wanted to hit someone, but my upbringing taught me to be decent, so I swallowed my anger. But in this life, I clearly realized that being decent is useless against trash. Only an iron fist can make them understand how precious kindness is. I pretended to be panicked and stood up, slamming the table. Zhang Shuashuo, have you lost your mind? There were 3 people present at the time, and there were surveillance cameras. How can you lie with your eyes wide open? Senior brother, please help me explain quickly. Wu Qingshan paused for a moment. When he looked up again, his gaze toward me turned sharp. Qin Zhao, although our relationship is special, I cannot lie when it comes to matters of right and wrong. It's also my fault. At that time, I was so angry with you that my emotions got the better of me, and on top of that, the department suddenly sent an urgent notice, which led to me not fulfilling my duty to properly oversee things. I accept whatever punishment the teachers decide. After saying this, he lowered his head, pretending to be sincerely remorseful, completely ignoring the panicked me standing beside him. They're lying. Dean, I want to request to see the video. I was trembling with anger and loudly stated my demand, but the dean nervously adjusted his glasses, deliberately avoiding my gaze. Instead, his assistant stepped in to smooth things over for him. We checked the surveillance footage, and the camera happened to malfunction just as the surgery was wrapping up, but with 2 witnesses testifying simultaneously, the evidence is sufficient. In an instant, everyone in the conference room turned their gaze toward me, as if the conclusion was Self-evident, whether I admit it or not, I am the one to blame and given a second chance. I gave them opportunities, but they once again pushed me to the brink of death. I couldn't help but glance at Zhang Shuashuo, Wu Qingshan, Dean Wufeng, and the other investigators, even my mentor, Director Li, who at this moment was lowering his head, not daring to look at me. In truth, they all knew the truth. It was just that in the face of common interests, they chose to sacrifice an innocent me in my past life. I was so enraged by Wu Qingshan's sudden betrayal that my head was spinning, so I overlooked many details, but this time, I saw it all clearly. Everyone present, they joined forces to send me to the guillotine. Fine, if that's the case, then let's all go to hell together. Did I say to check the operating room surveillance? Isn't it a coincidence? Yesterday, in order to catch Wu Qingshan's evidence of infidelity, I secretly recorded the entire end of the surgery with my phone. Zhang Shuashuo, will you confess on your own, or should I hand the evidence over to the underworld prince and let him deal with it? Instantly, Zhang Shuashuo was dumbfounded. Before Zhang Shuashuo could speak, I took out my phone and opened the video. The small screen clearly showed Zhang Shuashuo accidentally leaving scissors in the patient's abdomen. I only remembered to recheck the second half of the video after hearing about the accident just now. Wu Qingshan, you said you only see Zhang Shuashuo as a junior, but why were your hands stuck together during the surgery? Why is it that when she made the mistake, you're turning a blind eye and shifting the blame onto me? Wu Qingshan, today it's not you dumping me, it's me dumping you, you trash. I will definitely hold you accountable for framing me. My accusations left Wu Qingshan unable to lift his head. I glared angrily at the dean and Director Li. They all dare not look at me. A bunch of hypocrites, utterly ridiculous. Why is everyone silent? After my cold reminder, the dean pretended to cough and finally spoke up. Zhang Shuashuo, Wu Qingshan, what more do you have to explain? Director Li immediately chimed in. Is there some misunderstanding? I've watched Wu Qingshan grow up since he was a child, and I absolutely cannot believe he would frame an innocent person, even at this point. Director Li is still trying to curry favor with the dean. I used to consider him my mentor. Unfortunately, before he could finish speaking, someone else lost their composure first. Zhang Shuashuo snatched my phone when I wasn't paying attention and slammed it to the ground. The phone instantly shattered into two pieces. Jin Zhao, you're so vicious. You're jealous that Wu Qingshan cares more about me than you, so you forged a video to ruin me. I won't let you succeed. After saying that, she stomped on the shattered phone on the ground a few more times while she was going crazy. A crowd of onlookers gathered outside the conference room. It was the commotion caused by Zhang Shuashuo smashing the phone that drew them in. Seeing this, I deliberately raised my voice and said, are you kidding me? You just told me the operating room surveillance is broken. How could I possibly have the foresight to predict the surveillance would fail and fabricate a video in advance? Now that the evidence is clear, what are you going crazy about? You can't be foolish enough to think the video only exists on the phone, right? Oh, by the way, do you think the Crown Prince of the Capital Circle would want to know the truth? As soon as I finished speaking, a rustling sound of discussion came from outside the door. Zhang Shuashuo often skips night shifts, relying on Wu Qingshan as her backer. It's clear the two of them are involved. Last time she mixed up the medication for a patient, and Wu Qingshan pinned the blame on another newcomer. This time, she even framed Wu Qingshan's official girlfriend. TSK, what a despicable pair. The gossip outside the door left everyone inside looking extremely awkward. If Wu Qingshan is a despicable man, then what does that make Dean Wufeng? I will send the video back up to everyone in the hospital via email shortly. Moreover, after carefully reviewing the video, although Zhang Shuashuo's suturing skills are lacking, is his memory really so poor that he could forget about the surgical scissors? There is a difference between an accident and premeditated murder. I believe that after watching the full video, everyone will be able to distinguish right from wrong. Before leaving, I left a meaningful remark, casting an ambiguous light on Zhang Shuashuo's actions. I am not speaking without evidence. I originally thought Zhang Shuashuo was just confused. It wasn't until I watched the video repeatedly that I realized something was off with her eyes during the last few stitches. Jin Zhao, don't act on impulse. Provoking Gu Qingzi will only bring trouble upon yourself. I had just stepped out of the conference room when Wu Qingshan grabbed me. Wow, clearly he's afraid Gu Qingzi will come after him and Zhang Shuashuo, yet he claims it's for my sake. I slapped him hard across the face. He winced in pain, baring his teeth, and wanted to retaliate, but suddenly seemed to think better of it and let me go. Don't make a scene out here, he warned in a low voice. I curled my lips in a mocking sneer, tearing off his mask. Wu Qingshan, your hypocritical act makes me sick. You are the one who just wanted to hand me over to Gu Qingzi. Now you're pretending to be Some kind of savior. If you want to save your white moonlight, you can take the blame for her yourself, but don't even think about silencing me. Under immense pressure, the hospital's investigation was quickly completed. Zhang Shuashua was dismissed from the hospital and expelled from the school. It is said that he was also beaten and had one of his legs broken by someone sent by the underworld prince. Fortunately, his life was spared, all because Su Yin'er was lucky enough to be rescued in this lifetime. The on-duty doctor who promptly identified the issue, who also happens to be my close junior colleague, received a $1,000,000 gratitude gift from Gu Qingze. I had thought no one would discover that I secretly leaked the situation in the operating room to my junior colleague, but during a routine check in the ward that day, I was stopped by Su Yin'er, who had just recovered her health. "Was it you?" she asked me, leaving me completely baffled. It wasn't until she told me what my junior had inadvertently revealed that I realized I had given myself away. "Why didn't you tell me yourself? I was afraid you would blame me for standing by and doing nothing back then, and I didn't want to get involved with the underworld." I didn't dare to look into her eyes, but I confessed everything to bring down Zhang Shuashuo. I did sacrifice Su Yin'er's health, and even if she is still alive, I feel ashamed before her. But her next words left me stunned. "Thank you for saving me, and thank you for dealing with my sister." "What? Zhang Shuashuo is your sister?" Su Yin'er's brows furrowed tightly, a flicker of sorrow passing through her eyes. The next moment, I saw tears welling up in her eyes. She slowly lowered her head and began to recount their past. "She and I are biological sisters. It turned out that after their parents passed away, she and Zhang Shuashuo were sent to an orphanage there. Su Yin'er was very popular because of her adorable appearance, and soon a wealthy couple planned to adopt her. However, Zhang Shuashuo found an opportunity to contact the couple, saying that Su Yin'er had psychological issues after their parents' death and had a habit of stealing. She cried and begged the couple not to abuse her sister because of this in the future. As a result, Su Yin'er was left in the orphanage, while Zhang Shuashuo was fortunately adopted. From then on, their fates took completely different paths. Years later, Su Yin'er won the favor of Gu Qingze and lived a prosperous life until one day, Su Yin'er ran into Zhang Shuashuo, who was handing out flyers in a state of destitution while shopping in a mall. It was then that she learned Zhang Shuashuo's adoptive parents had gone bankrupt, and she had consequently dropped out of school. Kind-hearted Su Yin'er, remembering their sibling bond, did not hold on to the grudges from their childhood. Not only did she take Zhang Shuashuo in, but she also supported her through medical school, hoping she would have a better future. But Zhang Shuashuo betrayed her once again. Zhang Shuashuo actually took advantage of Su Yin'er's fiancé Gu Qingze being drunk and climbed into his bed. In a fit of rage, Su Yin'er completely severed ties with Zhang Shuashuo. "If it weren't for you recording the video, I would never have imagined she wanted to put me to death. So no matter what reason you had for not stopping her in the operating room, I owe you a favor. She and I are family. How could she do this to me?" At this point, Su Yin'er cried uncontrollably, as if her entire world had collapsed. Zhang Shuashuo's malice once again shattered my understanding of human nature. At that very moment, my phone received a text message. It turned out to be a video sent by Zhang Shuashuo. She was lying in an incredibly luxurious VIP ward on the top floor. Although her foot was in a cast, Wu Qingshan personally attended to her, handing her water and peeling oranges for her, showing meticulous care. Along with the video, she also sent a sarcastic message. "What's so interesting about being a doctor? Being the future dean's wife is what's interesting. Cherish it while you can. Your good days are numbered." I replied coldly with that line, "In for a penny, in for a pound." I posted the video and screenshots of her remarks all over my social media feed, and add 4 captions: "Adulterous couple." That night, the number of likes on my WeChat moments reached a historic high. There were also colleagues who took screenshots and posted them online anonymously, blasting the dean's son for not only abusing his power to secure benefits for his mistress, but also colluding with her to frame his legitimate girlfriend, constantly lowering the moral standards for the mistress. I didn't deliberately hide it from my dad. After he found out from my social media that Wu Qingshan had cheated, he was so angry that he rushed back from abroad overnight. Seeing my dad again after a lifetime apart, I couldn't help but feel overwhelmed with sorrow, sobbing and throwing myself into his arms. "Child, you've suffered." My dad thought I couldn't control my emotions because of a breakup, but little did he know, I just missed him so much. "Don't worry, I'll definitely give you an explanation." Seeing me cry my heart out, my dad stroked my head and made a promise. He kept his word and handed me a substantial weapon. A few days later, evidence of Wu Feng's bribery. Looking at the photos in the evidence bag, Wu Feng counting money and stuffing it into his pocket, as well as him hugging and kissing a hostess in a bar, I couldn't help but marvel at the power of genetics. He is just as hypocritical as his son. But when I saw the young lady's face clearly in the photo, I couldn't help but gasp. How could there be such an absurd thing in the world? My father agreed to let me use this evidence reasonably. I curled the corner of my lips and dialed Wu Qingshan's number. I have a big gift for you. If you don't show up within half an hour, you'll definitely regret it," without waiting for Wu Qingshan to reply. I hung up the phone. Half an hour later, Wu Qingshan rushed over in a panic, but the first thing he said was, "Qin Zhao, it's just a breakup. Why are you so relentless in pursuing me? Oh my god, you arrogant man, you don't think I'm trying to destroy you because I can't have you, do you? Isn't that the case?" Wu Qingshan looked at me with disdain and added, "It's not impossible for you to come back to me. As long as you apologize to me publicly, I can forgive you." I suppressed my disgust and threw his father's photo right in his face. "Shut up until you've seen it." Wu Qingshan bent down to pick up the photos, but there were too many. He couldn't possibly gather them all in a short time. He had no choice but to randomly pick up one and take a look. It happened to be a photo of his father hugging Zhang Shuashuo and kissing her. Instantly, he stood there dumbfounded like a block of wood. "Your father and your white moonlight have such a thing going on. It really opened my eyes, you know. This evidence is enough to send your father to prison for the rest of his life, but you poor cuckold, so I'll give you two choices. Will you choose your father's career, or your white moonlight? Damn bitch, she actually dared to betray me." Wu Qingshan's eyes reddened with anger, his fists clenched tightly, as expected, even after being cuckolded by his own father. The profit-driven Wu Qingshan still made the choice that was most beneficial to him. He immediately withdrew his medical donations to Zhang Shuashuo. Upon returning, he also drove her out of the hospital, leaving her to fend for herself. Wu Qingshan's sudden change of expression left Zhang Shuashuo utterly bewildered. That day, she desperately clung to Wu Qingshan's leg, screaming and shouting in the hospital lobby, "Wu Qingshan, do you think I'm crippled now? You want to dump me after sleeping with me, don't you? Breaking up is fine, but you have to compensate me for emotional damages, otherwise, I'll make sure you regret it." Zhang Shuashuo threw herself on the ground, rolling around and throwing a tantrum, her goddess aura completely gone. Wu Qingshan flung her to the ground as if shaking off a sticky plaster, and said sternly, "You know exactly what you've done. Don't force me to tell the whole world about your dirty little secrets." After saying that, Wu Qingshan straightened his clothes and ordered the security guards to drag Zhang Shuashuo out. As Zhang Shuashuo was being dragged to the entrance, she quickly grabbed hold of the stone pillar by the door and refused to let go. Kneeling on the ground, she cried out with tears streaming down her face, "The dean and I are innocent. Please listen to my explanation." Zhang Shuashuo foolishly gave himself away without being pressed. The dean, Dean Wu, the son got cuckolded by his own father. The onlookers nearby instantly erupted into an uproar, rubbing Wu Qingshan's last shred of dignity into the ground, and this melodramatic scene was captured by a passing colleague and sent to me. In the video, Zhang Shuashuo was crying pitifully, her voice trembling as if she genuinely regretted her actions, but I knew it was all just an act. Wu Qingshan is also a shrewd person. He had never had Zhang Shuashuo before, so naturally he was infatuated with her. Now that he's tired of her and she cheated on him, he naturally discards her like worthless grass. He called the security guard over and whispered a few words. The security team quickly moved in with pepper spray to drive her away. Zhang Shuashuo was in so much pain that she grimaced and lost all dignity, but I still wasn't satisfied. In my previous life, I died in the icy river water. After death, my reputation was ruined by that despicable couple, and my research achievements were stolen. Yet in this life, Zhang Shuashuo only broke one leg, and even that leg has recovered 70% of its health under Wu Qingshan's care. Thinking of this, a plan formed in my mind: immediately send someone to contact Zhang Shuashuo's landlord, and after buying the house she rented at a high price, the landlord promptly evicted her. Without the protection of her sister and the two men from the Wu family, Zhang Shuashuo had no choice but to take the compensation and seek shelter in a cheap hotel in the early hours of the morning. However, when she walked into that dark and damp alley, the smell from the festering wound on her leg attracted a pack of stray dogs. That very night, she had half her face torn apart by two rabid wild dogs. Zhang Shuashuo was already half dead. I shifted my target to the Wu family. On the day Wu Feng was taken away from the hospital by the investigation bureau, Wu Qingshan immediately rushed to me and demanded, "You said it was a choice between two options, and I chose my father's career. How could you go back on your word?" I looked at him as if he were a fool. "I promise not to hand over your father's information to the investigation bureau, but I can't control what others might do." "Oh dear, could it be that your father has made too many enemies out there? If you want to blame someone, blame your own bad luck. You're the one who's jinxing your father. If you can't stand it, just end it all yourself. Why blame me?" After saying that, I gave him a regretful look and had him thrown out. His defeated expression was truly a sight to behold, but this is just the beginning. He only lost a father who gave him money, but I lost my life. Wu Feng was taken away for Investigation, however, his faction has deep roots in the hospital. Sure enough, a few days later, I was suspended by the hospital on trumped-up charges. I was actually quite relieved. I simply retreated at home and continued sorting through the evidence with my father's legal team. As the investigation deepened, we have also uncovered the situation of Wu Feng's faction buying and selling positions. However, we still lack crucial evidence. If we can obtain substantial evidence, we might be able to bring down all of Wu Feng's close associates. That day, I decided to invite my junior schoolmate for a meal to inquire about the situation. However, as soon as I parked my car at the entrance of the restaurant, I was dragged up by two men in black and shoved into an unfamiliar bus. When my blindfold was removed, I found myself in a dusty, abandoned factory, and there was Wu Qingshan's ferocious face. He slowly approached, the knife lingering ambiguously at my neck, a smug smile curling at the corner of his lips. "You wretched woman, you've finally fallen into my hands. Tell me, should I have you sliced to death, or should I find a beggar to defile you before throwing you to the sharks? Seeing you in such a pitiful state, I'll give you two choices." Wu Qingshan followed the same pattern, letting me choose the way to end myself. How unoriginal. Just as he thought victory was within his grasp, I curled the corner of my mouth and said, "I choose the third option, you die." Wu Qingshan hadn't even reacted before he was tackled to the ground by two accomplices behind him. The next second, a group of black-clad men burst through the door. They untied me and said respectfully, "Miss Jean, how would you like to deal with him?" I stared at Wu Qingshan, who was pinned to the ground with a look of shock on his face, and smiled. Actually, Wu Qingshan's revenge plan was within my expectations all along, because I had installed surveillance in his car long ago. Even more coincidentally, the kidnapper Wu Qingshan contacted was a subordinate of the Crown Prince of the Beijing Circle. After Suyena received my call for help, she immediately assisted me in designing this high-end scheme of internal and external cooperation. Didn't expect that, did you? This round was specially designed for you. Surprised, unexpected. Today, I'm giving you two more choices. Will you choose your father's career or your own life? I still lack the crucial evidence to bring down the Wu Feng faction. If his own son is willing to testify in court, all problems will be easily resolved. You've already deceived me once, why should I trust you again? Wu Qingshan was still trying to bargain even on his deathbed. I raised my high heel and stomped hard on his mouth, saying word by word, "Do you even have a choice?" Wu Qingshan's mouth was smashed by my foot. His legs were also broken by his two accomplices, leaving him crippled. Isn't that perfect? It makes him a better match for his white moonlight. The next day, news of Wu Qingshan's real name report against his father Wu Feng for buying and selling positions, accepting bribes, and suppressing dissidents topped the hot search list. Wu Feng was completely removed from his position. All medical staff close to him were living in fear. Several, unable to bear the pressure, eventually chose to turn themselves in, including Director Li. This time, I kept my promise and spared Wu Qingshan, because I knew his family's fortune was at an end. With his abilities and reputation, making a comeback would be as difficult as climbing to the sky. He also lived up to my expectations. From then on, he remained in a slump and lived off his dwindling resources. In less than half a year, he squandered all the family fortune his father had left behind. Later, in order to repay his gambling debts, he went to work on a construction site, hauling bricks. The next time I heard about him was in the newspaper. It was said that he had gone to the red light district, refused to pay for the services of a prostitute, and was stabbed to death. In the news, although the suspect who killed Wu Qingshan was pixelated, but I would recognize the red birthmark on her neck even if it turned to ashes. That's right, it was Zhang Shuashuo. Who would have thought that a graduate from a prestigious medical university would become a prostitute and even stab a client to death? I naturally guessed that Wu Qingshan's death wasn't as simple as not paying for prostitution. However, Zhang Shuashuo was sentenced to 20 years for intentional homicide, so he won't be causing trouble anytime soon. Right now, I have more important matters to attend to. After the hospital incident was settled, I took the initiative to call Suyener. Thank you and Yen Master Gu for your help during this period, especially with the kidnapping incident. You're too polite. I've said before that I owe Miss Qin a favor, and besides, such matters are just a piece of cake for the Gu family. I'll treat Miss Qin to a meal when I have time, Suyener replied with a smile. I felt that she had a good impression of me, so I didn't hesitate to take the conversation further. Deal. On the day we met, I catered to her interests by giving her, an art enthusiast, a very rare avant-garde masterpiece. Gradually, Suyener let her guard down around me. Later, she would occasionally dismiss the Gu family's bodyguards to spend time alone with me. We talked about everything under the sun, discussing literature and art. In our relaxed and comfortable interactions, I became the only friend she could confide in. One day, I vaguely told her that I had offended the entire industry by reporting the hospital and could only open my own private clinic. Upon hearing this, Suyener's eyes lit up. At that moment, I knew it was going to happen, just as expected. Soon after, Gu Qingze sent his assistant to get in touch with me. I knew the Gu family had many shady businesses. They needed a lot of enforcers to help them maintain their power in the tug-of-war between different factions. Conflicts and violence are inevitable. These thugs with complicated backgrounds cannot openly go to the hospital if they get injured, so they urgently need a private doctor like me, who is both highly skilled and trustworthy. Before Gu Qingze approached me, he must have thoroughly investigated my background, top medical school graduate, but blacklisted by the entire industry. His father is the owner of a well-known pharmaceutical company, but is under attack from all sides due to a whistleblowing incident. He knows I urgently need financial and influential support. From then on, he gave me his backing, and I became his most loyal doctor. I never forgot how easily Gu Qingze crushed me like an ant in my past life. Given a second chance, of course, I wanted to deal with him effortlessly, but how could I, alone, overthrow the most powerful force in the capital? It took me a full 2 years just to earn the trust of his subordinates. During this period, the evidence regarding the Gu family's crimes consisted only of a few ambiguous remarks inadvertently revealed by several thugs while receiving treatment. I first met Gu Qingze in the third year of that day. He personally dealt with the mole within his ranks. He discovered that the mole also had an unclear relationship with Suyener, so, in a fit of rage, he beat his favorite woman half to death. When I arrived at the scene, Suyener was lying in a pool of blood, barely alive. Suppressing my trembling heart, I silently helped treat her wounds. Despite using the best medicine and the most advanced equipment, Suyener did not survive the day. The moment the ventilator stopped, Gu Qingze went mad. "Get out, all of you, get out. Why did you conspire with that police officer to betray me? Why? Clearly he was the murderer, yet he pretended to be deeply affectionate." Holding Suyener's cold body and weeping bitterly, he even drove everyone present away in a frenzy. This was his most vulnerable day. It was also the day he was closest to his death. I calmly pushed the instrument away, and the hidden camera inside that they didn't have time to check killed the police, and the police informant Suyener, and the video evidence of him confessing to the crime. Gu Qingze enraged the entire police force. Upon receiving my anonymous tip, the police swiftly took action and, based on the clues, investigated all of the Gu family's illicit businesses. Gu Qingze was sentenced to death for multiple crimes. The influence of the Gu family also completely collapsed, although it was 2 years later when everything was finally settled. I had spent a full 5 years of my youth on it, but all the backstabbers met their end, so it was all worth it, wasn't it? After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see my sister and I are twins, and also the legendary yin-yang fetuses. The uglier I become, the more beautiful she will be. The worse my grades are, the better she will perform in exams. The worse my health is, the healthier she will be. As one waxes, the other wanes, like two ends of a scale. So my parents decided to sacrifice me and pour all their efforts into raising a favored daughter. Mom, with a shriek from Megan, the toner in my hand fell to the floor and shattered. Megan stormed out in a rage, crying to Mom, who had rushed over at the sound. She actually dared to secretly use toner. Mom, look at my face. Hasn't it become rough? Her voice was sharp and tearful. Mom was heartbroken, stroking her face and blowing on it repeatedly. Are you okay, baby? Megan turned and pointed at me, her eyes fierce. It's all her. Mom turned to look, and when she saw the shattered toner on the floor, her face instantly changed. She strode over, grabbed my ear, and dragged me out of the house. What did I tell you? How dare you put this stuff on your face behind my back? Are you trying to harm your sister? I bit my lip tightly and said nothing. She furiously kicked me a few times, then made me stand in the scorching sun as punishment. She then turned around and went back to comfort Megan. It was the height of August, and the sun burned painfully on my face. I squinted, and the tears streaming down my face stung even more. Megan's joyful voice came from the room. Mom, look, haven't I gotten a little fairer? Almost no one could tell that Megan and I were twins. She had fair skin, was tall, and excelled academically. Meanwhile, I had dark skin, was overweight, and dropped out of school from childhood. My parents always told everyone I was a child from our relatives in the countryside, but originally, I looked exactly like Megan. Until I was 2 years old, a Taoist priest passed by our house and asked for a bowl of water. Megan and I were playing with pebbles at the door, and he saw us. He looked at us in surprise. Are you twins? Mom smiled and said, yes. He clapped his hands. These aren't ordinary twins. These are yin-yang twins, a rare sight in 100 years, born of yin and Young, one wanes as the other waxes. This is the yin yang fetus, from childhood to adulthood. Countless stories of Megan's and my growth have proven this statement true. If one of us falls ill, the other becomes exceptionally lively. If one gains weight, the other loses it. If one person's grades dropped, the others would improve by leaps and bounds. It was very strange, but this strangeness also directly plunged me into an abyss. My parents were very vain people when they saw other people's children were intelligent and clever, while their own two daughters were both ordinary. They felt both anger and jealousy. When they were 5, they made a decision. They decided to sacrifice one daughter to fully cultivate a favored daughter, and I, Ruby, was the one sacrificed to maintain Megan's good skin. I had to expose myself to the sun every day at noon. My face has been hurting so badly these past few days that I couldn't stand it anymore. So I secretly used some toner to relieve the pain, but I didn't expect to be discovered by Megan. My vision went black, and I felt dizzy from the sun. Just as I was about to give up, the door behind me opened. "Hey, fatty, dinner's ready." It was Megan. I felt a wave of relief and slowly turned around to go home. My meal was already prepared at the dining table, a huge basin full. Like pig slop, they would force me to eat so much, just so Megan could maintain her slender figure. They wanted to send Megan to study acting, hoping she could enter the entertainment industry and become a household name. Tomorrow was the day Megan would go for her mock school exam. We heard some schools would select people on site, so the whole family gathered around her, showering her with care and preparing many things. I was in the kitchen washing dishes and tidying up, like an invisible person. By evening, Megan's complexion had worsened a bit. She frowned and snapped at her mother. "It's all your fault for insisting on buying me ice cream at noon. Now I think I'm catching a cold. I have my school entrance exam tomorrow. If I don't do well because of a cold or fever, I'm not going to study anymore." Her mother soothed her while looking for medicine. Her father returned from outside and, seeing them like this, paused for a moment. "What's wrong?" Mom explained. "Megan has a bit of a fever, and I'm afraid it will affect her school exam tomorrow." Dad frowned and thought for a moment, then suddenly realized, why go through all that trouble? Don't we have ready-made medicinal herbs? With that, he turned to look at me. In an instant, the whole family's eyes were on me. I subconsciously took a step back, my heart pounding. "Mom, let go of me." I shrieked in terror, but my mother's hand, pressing mine, didn't loosen at all. She held me down in the bathtub, letting the cold water pour over my head. She turned her head and shouted at my father, "Has the ice you bought arrived? This dead girl has always had good physical health. Without ice, I'm afraid she won't get sick easily. They want to use my illness to exchange for Megan's health." I struggled, tears welling up. Mom perfunctorily comforted me. "You're the older sister. What's wrong with helping your younger sister? When she becomes a big star later and makes money, won't you be the one enjoying the good life?" No, I was keenly aware of how strict the demands for body shape and appearance were for those glamorous celebrities. If Megan really did enter the entertainment industry, I would only be 10,000 times more miserable than I am now. Ice-cold chunks of ice poured directly down. I was frozen, my face pale and my body trembling. Mom and Dad tied me in the bathtub. He didn't know how much time had passed. I heard Megan's voice. I think my fever broke." The next morning, they took Megan to the exam site. As for me, I couldn't even get out of bed due to a severe cold. In a daze, it felt like someone tapped on my window. I live in the basement, with half a window above ground, and sometimes children play around there. I opened my eyes and looked. It was Bella, the neighbor's child. The little girl knocked on the window and called out to me, "Sister Ruby, what's wrong?" I struggled to get up and open the window. "I'm sick. I can't play with you today." She looked a little disappointed, then turned and ran away. I waited for a while, and when she didn't come back, I was about to close the window when I heard another patter of footsteps. Bella ran back, holding all sorts of medicines. I found some medicine at home. "Sister Ruby, see if there's anything you can take." My heart warmed, and my eyes welled up. Because of my appearance, almost no one in this area paid attention to me. Only Bella still treated me as a friend. I softly said, "Thank you." After chatting with me for a while, Bella stood up and looked around. I asked, somewhat puzzled, "What's wrong?" She squatted down and whispered, "My mom said there are human traffickers nearby, so she doesn't let me play outside for too long." "Sister Ruby, I probably have to go home." I smiled. "It's okay, you go home, be careful." After Bella left, the basement fell silent again. I turned my head to look at the small window, but my mind kept replaying what she had just said. Human traffickers, they probably prefer young, pretty girls. It wasn't until after 9 that Mom and Dad returned with Megan. They were laughing and chatting, extremely harmonious. Mom knocked on my bedroom door, and in the light, her face seemed a little kinder. "Here, I bought you Some food. She handed me a large bag of KFC she was carrying. I looked at her, a little overwhelmed. Mom smiled at me. Your sister has been pre-selected by several schools. She can be a star. I held the KFC, somewhat at a loss, lowering my head, not knowing how to respond. It had been a long time since Mom had spoken to me so kindly. Mom saw that I didn't respond and felt awkward. She reached out to touch my head, but hesitated just before, changed direction, and patted my shoulder. Ruby, your sister wouldn't be where she is today without your significant contributions. You've really worked hard these past few years. She showered me with concern again, asking if I was better, then if I was hungry. I just stared at her blankly, expressionless. Mom didn't stay long, turning and heading upstairs shortly after. A few minutes later, I heard the happy laughter of their family of 3 from upstairs. Look, this is the current situation. I sat on the bed with my KFC, the only light in the room. A flickering desk lamp late at night. I got up to go to the bathroom. In the dark living room, Megan's room was still lit. Faint voices came from inside. I paused, and as if possessed, took a few steps in that direction. Mom, I heard you talking to Ruby today. Do you not like me anymore and prefer her instead? Her voice was as unreasonable as ever. Like, I thought of that bag of KFC. Was that what you called love? Mom's voice was exceptionally gentle. Megan, why would you think that? Mom loves you the most. When Mom was waiting for you outside today, I heard those student parents say that the requirements for female celebrities nowadays are very strict. Things like delicate skin with no pores, right-angle shoulders, and a tiny waist. If you want to be a big star in the future, you'll definitely need to be even more beautiful. Her explanation, to me, felt like 1,000 cuts to my heart. Mom wants to help you keep Ruby stable. Think about it. If she can't take it anymore and runs away from home, what will happen to your future? Upon hearing this, Megan indeed panicked a little. Yes, Mom, you're right. We can't let her leave. We must keep her. Mom was very relieved. That's why Mom went to comfort her. You didn't see how disgusting her pig-like face was, and her dirty hair. I couldn't even bring myself to touch it. Megan's laughter rang out. I trembled all over. Finally, I managed to restrain myself with great difficulty, retreating step by step back to my basement. Lying on my small bed, my thoughts were clearer than ever before. I also made a decision. You don't want me to leave, then let Megan go. On the 10th day of aimlessly wandering around the town, I finally encountered the human traffickers Bella had mentioned. A woman was standing on the street, looking for a target, and I unexpectedly bumped into her. She was startled and looked up at me in fright. When she saw my face clearly, a flicker of disgust crossed her features. I acted as if I hadn't seen anything, and squatted on the ground, starting to cry, and my crying was too obvious, and many people looked over. The woman seemed a bit flustered and quickly walked away. I grabbed her pant leg directly, holding on tightly, and sobbed, Auntie, do you think I'm really ugly? The woman couldn't break free for a moment and could only force a smile. No, you're very cute. Auntie has things to do. Don't hold on to me. But I cried even louder. You're lying. No one has ever said I'm cute. Everyone only praises Megan, saying she's beautiful and pretty. The woman stumbled from my tugging and sat directly on the ground, completely stunned. Coming to her senses, just as she was about to lash out at me, I handed her the photo. Auntie, look at my sister. Is she really prettier than me? But we're twins, aren't we? The woman's gaze swept over the photo, then she froze. Their eyes were shining. Little girl, is this your sister? I nodded. Her attitude instantly became as warm as a spring breeze. Little girl, where do you live? I pointed ahead. There's a cluster of self-built houses past that intersection. The woman transformed into a caring big sister, chatting with me and comforting me, but all her words were subtly trying to extract information. She's getting to know my sister, Megan, I whispered. Everyone has always liked her since we were little. She's pretty, and all the boys in class have crushes on her. But they don't know that every evening, she goes to the lake to meet the school heartthrob. She already has a boyfriend. Why does no one like me? Seeing that she had gathered enough information, the woman lost all patience to continue chatting with me. She hurriedly stood up. Auntie has things to do. I'm leaving now. Watching her quickly departing figure, I expressionlessly raised my hand to wipe away the tears from the corners of my eyes. When I got home, as soon as I pushed open the door, Mom rushed over, furious. Where have you been? I shrugged. Went to play with Bella. Mom glared at me. Next time you go out, you need to tell us. I nodded. Got it. They were afraid I would leave without a word. They were afraid their other daughter's medicinal herbs would be gone. How disgusting. Megan, dressed in her finest, walked past me, wrinkling her nose and covering it with her hand. I rarely called out to her. Where are you going? She looked at me with a hint of surprise, then scoffed. None of your business. Mom twisted my Your sister is going to a class reunion, she's going to be a big star in the future, and so many classmates want to curry favor with her. Quick, move out of the way, don't touch your sister, look at you, you stink, don't get it on your sister. Megan sneered, picked up her bag, and walked out of the house. I guess she's not just going to a class reunion, she's also going to meet her little boyfriend by the lake. Her little boyfriend's family is a famous wealthy merchant in our area. Before becoming a big star, she had to keep him steady. But now it was different, she was about to soar, and this kind of relationship would be a scandal for her. After she became famous, she had to break up with him quickly and decisively. Megan was missing. The family searched from midnight until dawn, but found no trace. Her young boyfriend was terrified, his face pale. We parted ways by the lake. I watched her leave. How could she be missing? Her mother was on the verge of fainting from crying, and she went directly to the police station to report her missing. Since Megan was not yet 18 years old, the police quickly took on the case. However, after several days of searching, they still found nothing. Megan had vanished into thin air from the entire town. Of course they couldn't find her. After getting their hands on Megan, those human traffickers would surely leave immediately. After all, Megan alone was worth 10 people by now. They should have already fled into some deep mountain. I lowered my head and looked at my arm on her smooth skin. There was once a scar, but just this morning, that scar disappeared. I pursed my lips. It seems my dear sister got a beating. During the half month that Megan was missing, my parents were so busy looking for someone that they didn't have the energy to look after me anymore. They didn't care if I ate or if I got any sun. They just wanted to get their carefully crafted treasure back. So, I got a moment of freedom. I started secretly losing weight and quietly taking care of my skin. The previous me had been tormented into such a rough state, so just a little exercise and skincare made a huge difference. That evening, I was playing with Bella. Bella cupped her face and looked at me in surprise. Wow, Sister Ruby, you've become so pretty. Her mother, who had just returned from outside, overheard her words. She turned her head to look at me, her face weary. From her expression, there was still no news of Megan today. My mother's gaze fixed on my face, and after 3 seconds, her expression changed. She glared at me fiercely. Get in here. I followed her in with my head down, and Mom slapped me across the face without hesitation. What did you put on your face? She grabbed my hair. Have you not been eating well these past few days, and you haven't been out in the sun? Your sister will come back. If you dare to ruin her, I'll make you pay. I covered my face, looked up at her, and suddenly smiled. She was stunned for a moment. What are you laughing at? I'm laughing. What if my sister doesn't come back? Mom's body stiffened, and she subconsciously let go. She had considered this outcome long ago. She hadn't slept a wink for nights because of it. If Megan didn't come back, all their hard work for half a lifetime would be in vain. If she doesn't come back, can't Mom consider me? I watched my mother's expression, then tightly held her hand and knelt directly on the ground. Mom, I'm your daughter too. What Megan can do, I can do too. If she can become a big star, so can I. Look, I just put in a little effort and I'm already starting to look pretty. I'll be even prettier in the future. Mom, I can honor you on my sister's behalf. I spoke with genuine emotion, tears streaming down my face. Mom's hand recoiled as if she'd been electrocuted. She looked dazed and slowly returned to her room. I need to think. Let me think. Watching her slightly hunched back, I stood up from the ground. I was certain she would agree. After all, for her, I was her last resort. For several days in a row, I saw the lights in my parents' room still on late into the night. They were discussing. They were wavering between getting Megan back and raising another favored daughter. On the morning of the 4th day, Mom knocked on my door. Ruby, we're not living in the basement anymore. I've cleaned up the room upstairs for you. You'll live up there from now on. See, on the 20th day after Megan disappeared, Mom gave up on her and chose me instead. What a touching family bond. I smiled. Thank you, Mom. I walked upstairs. Eggs and milk were already set on the dining table, no longer the greasy lard mixed rice from before. This was the breakfast Mom had prepared for me anew. Mom walked behind me, her voice gentle. Ruby, Mom has prepared a healthy meal plan for you. From now on, we'll eat according to this plan. Also, Mom bought you a set of high-end skincare products. Don't forget to use them morning and night. After dinner, Mom will take you to the beauty salon for a treatment. Ruby, you have good skin, you'll definitely become beautiful very quickly, and your hair, Mom will take you to get it properly styled. As he spoke, Dad returned from outside. He paused when he saw me, but quickly recovered. He walked over with a smile, truly like a loving father. Ruby has become more beautiful. Ruby, Dad found you a fitness coach. He said he can help you lose 20 pounds in a month. I slowly finished my last bite of breakfast, then looked up and smiled at them. Thank you, Mom and Dad. So this is how Megan has always been treated. It feels pretty good. When my weight dropped to 100 pounds, my parents moved us. They publicly announced that Megan had been found, but was traumatized and needed a change of environment to recuperate, because as my changes became more and more significant, my parents made another decision. They wanted me to take Megan's place in school. After all, Megan had already obtained acceptance letters from several schools. This resource couldn't be wasted, and I, on the other hand, was losing weight and taking care of my skin while cramming for my academic courses. Before, with me around, Megan could effortlessly get these things without lifting a finger. Now, I can only rely on myself, but so what? I didn't feel the slightest bit of dissatisfaction. After all, compared to my previous life, this was simply a life of luxury. I studied diligently, constantly improving myself without a moment's rest. This continuous process of transformation was something I truly enjoyed. Finally, after a year, I caught up with the school's curriculum. Although my grades weren't great, as an art student, this level was good enough. My weight also dropped to 94 gene, and my appearance underwent a drastic change. Mom gently stroked my face. Beautiful, truly beautiful, Ruby, you're even more beautiful than your sister. Now, I've become my parents' beloved treasure. From now on, I will live as Megan. I took Megan's place at a top art academy in China. In my sophomore year, I was chosen by a renowned director to star in a historical power struggle film called East Wind. The movie gained immense popularity after its release, winning numerous awards, and I, who played the courtesan, also gained some fame. I became one of the most promising young actresses of the year, as selected by the media. That year, I was only 20 years old. Mom was overjoyed, hugging me and crying uncontrollably. Mom's good daughter. Mom really didn't dote on you for nothing. You'll definitely become a big star in the future. Mom has sacrificed so much for you. Don't forget me. I patted her shoulder, my voice soft. Of course, I will definitely take good care of you. By the time I graduated from university, I had already become one of the most popular young actresses in the entertainment industry. Resources and advertisements poured in. My parents also moved into a big house with me. On my mother's 45th birthday, I gave her an unexpected birthday gift. I brought Megan back. I never gave up looking for Megan all these years. After all, she's my twin sister. When Megan appeared at home, Mom was so scared she almost fainted. Dad was also so scared that he couldn't speak for a long time. The Megan before them was completely different from the one they remembered. She stood there awkwardly, with rough skin, a bloated figure, and messy hair. Though only in her 20s, she looked like an elderly woman. She looked a lot like I used to. Megan finally recognized her family members in front of her and excitedly rushed over to hug her mother. Mom, it's Megan. Do you still remember me? After all these years, why didn't you come looking for me? Why didn't you come looking for me? Dad, don't you recognize me either? Mom came back to her senses, looking at Megan's face with a complex expression. She patted Megan's back. Where have you been all these years? Megan went ballistic when she heard this. I was abducted and they forced me to marry an old bachelor. He beat and cursed me, and even made me bear his children. Mom had no patience to listen to her say so much at this point. Before she could say much, I interrupted her. It's good you're back. It's good you're back. From now on, just stay at home and help your sister. She's successful now. She's a big star. Megan froze, then stiffly turned her head to look at me, standing at the door. It seemed that only then did she just recognize me. I took off my sunglasses and walked towards her. Under her complex gaze, I hugged her. Sister, welcome back. Megan let me hug her. 3 seconds later, she abruptly pushed me away. Ruby, are you that fat pig? Ruby? She looked at me in shock, her gaze scanning me repeatedly, before finally screaming, you ruined me. You made me fat and ugly. It was all you. She turned her head and yelled at her mother. Mom, quickly help me change back. You should make Ruby eat more, let her sunbathe, and make her ugly and fat. Mom's face changed, and she scolded, what nonsense are you talking about? She's your sister. Dad also pulled her away. Now that our family is doing well, you can just live here in peace. You need to listen to your sister from now on. Megan looked at them and slowly understood. You're abandoning me and choosing her. Megan went crazy. She tried to rush over and hit me, but before she could even touch my face, my parents held her back. My mother looked at me, revealing an ingratiating smile. Ruby, don't worry. We won't let her hurt you. It's good that she's back now. You'll definitely become more beautiful in the future. The implication was that she intended to use Megan as a medicinal tonic for me, sacrificing her to benefit me, just as she used to sacrifice me to benefit herself. Megan froze, looking at her in shock. Mom, what are you talking about? I'm Megan. Didn't you say you loved me the most? Dad, why aren't you saying anything? Aren't you the one who loves me the most? I looked at her and just felt pity. Fool, the ones they love and cherish, the Most are themselves. I don't need it. I refused my mother's offer. What I want, I'll get myself. A slender figure and a beautiful face. I will control myself with discipline, good scripts and good resources. I will also strive for them myself. I pointed at Megan. You just take good care of my sister. With that, I turned and left the house. I don't live with them anymore. I have my own place. Living with them makes me sick. I'm very busy with work, so I usually only get to go home once a week. That night, as soon as I got home, I saw someone squatting by the door. It's my mom. She saw me and quickly came over. Ruby, just finished with work. I nodded. Is something wrong? She chuckled. It's nothing. It's nothing. Mom was afraid you wouldn't be used to eating outside food, so I made you some small dishes and brought them over. I glanced at the box she was carrying. Thank you, Mom. A smile spread across her lips. I then said, but I'm on a diet recently, strictly following a meal plan, so I can't eat these things, I said as I opened the door and walked in. Mom followed me through the door. She stood a little awkwardly at the doorway. It's fine, I'll go back and let Megan eat. After that, she cautiously added, she's gained a bit of weight recently. I hummed in response, saying nothing. I could feel it. She was trying to please me. After all, I was the family's financial lifeline now. They were counting on me to bring them a good life. Mom showered me with care and concern. Are you busy lately? Any new shows to film? Me, not busy lately. I have an audition tomorrow, and if I get selected, I should be joining a crew by the end of the year. Mom smiled. Ruby is really capable, much stronger than Megan. I stood in front of the dressing mirror, frowning as I removed my makeup. Tisk, Mom quickly asked, what's wrong? Looking at my left cheek in the mirror, I casually said, suddenly got a pimple. Hope it doesn't affect my audition tomorrow. Mom immediately got anxious. What? She scrutinized my face, a little anxious, but I casually avoided her hand. It's nothing, don't worry. I pulled a card from my bag. Mom, all your living expenses from now on will be put into this card. You can spend it yourselves. Mom took it, beaming. Thank you, Ruby. After getting the card, she didn't stay here for long. As she was leaving, she said to me with a joyful expression, Ruby, don't worry. This pimple on your face will be gone soon, Mom. Won't let it affect your audition. After Mom left, I closed the door. After washing up, I lay down on the bed and took out my phone to open the home surveillance. Mom said Megan has gained weight again recently. She's trying to take credit from me. Megan was ultimately used by her as my medicine. Tonight, she'll probably use this herb to treat me again. In the surveillance video, Mom came home from outside. Dad quickly sat up from the sofa. How is it? Did she give you the money? Mom took out the card. Let's go to the bank tomorrow and see how much money is in it. Dad smiled. Ruby is really promising. Oh, right. Mom lowered her voice and whispered a few words into Dad's ear. As she whispered, she also looked towards a room at the end of the hallway. A moment later, Mom walked over. Megan, what are you doing? Come out now. Megan's shots immediately came from inside. Are you trying to force me to eat again? I'm telling you, no way. I'm on a diet now. I want to be beautiful, so I'm not eating anything. Mom's face darkened, and she directly took out the spare key to open Megan's door. Megan was dragged out by her hair by her mom, screaming all the while. She fell to the ground, seeing stars. Before she could react, her hands and feet were already pinned down. She looked at her parents in horror. What are you doing? No one answered her question. Dad lit a cigarette and asked Mom, where on Ruby's face did the pimple grow? Don't get it wrong. Mom pointed to Megan's left cheek. Right here. I couldn't be mistaken. Besides, what if I did get it wrong? At most, we'll just burn it a few more times. Nothing is more important than Ruby's future. Their faces were contorted, and they pressed down on Megan, looking like demons from hell. Megan cried her heart out. I looked at the monitor, then reached up and touched my left cheek. The pimples there were gone. Mom and Dad overlooked one thing. They forgot that Megan isn't me. She once experienced a life of luxury. The taste of falling from the clouds to the dust is far more unbearable than always being in the dust, being treated so mercilessly. She will go mad. After going mad, she will seek revenge. When I received the news of their car accident, I had just finished filming. I heard that Megan ran away from home and was found by her parents. On the way home, Megan suddenly lost control and lunged to grab the steering wheel. The car flipped several times before coming to a stop. By the time I rushed to the hospital, Dad had no vital signs, and Megan and Mom were still in the operating room, their lives hanging in the balance. I squatted at the operating room door, crying my heart out. Someone recognized me, took my picture, and posted it online. The popular actress's family suffers sudden misfortune trended on social media. Within a few hours, someone dug up my past. My parents painstakingly raised me, and my twin sister was abducted, only to be found 5 years later. My sister's mental breakdown led to this car accident, and also to my father's Death. Netizens have been leaving comments and private messages on my social media. They comforted me, telling me to be strong and that they would get through this difficult time with me. Overnight, I gained 2 million followers. My mother was saved, but she became a vegetable, and whether she would wake up was still unknown. Among the three, Megan was still the least injured. I had several fractures, but after a few months of recovery, I was mostly able to get out of bed and walk. When I went to her ward, she was completely insane. Get out. Are you happy to see me like this? I looked at her expressionlessly, wearing sunglasses. I'm so happy. You have no idea. While you were hospitalized, I filmed several amazing fight scenes. Megan was stunned for a moment, then picked up the crutch next to her, intending to hit me. I lightly dodged. Get well soon, little sister. The police are still waiting to summon you. After leaving Megan's ward, I went to see my mother. She lay peacefully in her hospital bed. I pulled the blanket up for her, gently tucked in the corners of the blanket. Mom, I will definitely live the good life you wanted for me. Megan was summoned by the police for allegedly endangering public safety. However, during the statement recording, she was incoherent. She kept saying inexplicable things like young fetus, I'm the big star, someone wants to harm me, and so on. After a doctor's diagnosis, it was confirmed that she had mental health issues. I sent her to the best psychiatric hospital in the city. It had the most advanced medical care and the most attentive service. The director took my hand and praised, not only are you beautiful, but you also have such a kind heart. I sighed. Well, she is my own sister, after all. The dean took out a notebook from his pocket. I'm your fan. Would you mind signing an autograph? I smiled, took the notebook, and gracefully signed my name, Megan, on it. No matter how busy I was with filming, every month I would make time to visit my mother at the hospital and my sister at the mental institution. That day, in my mother's hospital room, I looked at a news article on my phone and finally couldn't help but smile. Mom, look, I held the phone up to her. I've been named the most inspiring female celebrity of the year. I've become a big star, just as you wished. Mom, are you happy? When I left the ward, I put on my sunglasses and baseball cap, fully geared up, and walked into the elevator. There was a man and a woman in the elevator, each holding a child. They were two identical children. I looked at them and couldn't help but smile. Are they twins? The woman's face was full of happiness. Yes, they are twins. The older one is sick. We brought him to see the doctor. I followed the couple out of the hospital, one after the other. After my agent picked me up, we drove to the company. While waiting at a red light, I saw that couple again. They were standing by the roadside, being pestered by a Taoist priest. I rolled down my window and turned to look. Yin Yang twins again. It's truly a marvel that I, an old Taoist, could encounter two pairs of Yin Yang twins in this lifetime. The woman, annoyed by his pestering, said, move aside quickly, we have things to do. The Taoist priest grabbed her arm. Of your two sons, if you sacrifice one, the other can become a favored child of heaven. The woman shook off his hand and cursed. Listen to your nonsense. Both children are my treasures. I don't want them to be favored children of heaven. I just want them to be safe and sound. The man stepped forward to shield his wife and child, warning the Taoist priest, if you don't leave now, I'm calling the police. The Taoist priest pouted and reluctantly walked away. He was still muttering, born of yin and yang, one wanes as the other waxes, the yin fetus in mire, the yang fetus in paradise. Ha ha ha. I watched the couple walk away with their child until they turned the corner and disappeared from view. I averted my gaze. My agent asked me with concern, what's wrong? I shook my head. Nothing, I'm fine. Let's go. After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time. After hearing the two stories above,